My son looked me in the eyes and called me old, weak, and forgetful. Then he told me to pack my bags because this was no longer my home. My own family stood there in silence while I carried one small suitcase to the front door. They thought I had lost everything. They thought they had already won. What they never imagined was that I already knew about every forged signature, every fake document, every secret meeting. They also had no idea that a $90 million trust fund had one final condition. The person who betrayed me would lose everything. My name is Richard. I spent 45 years building a business from nothing. Every long night, every missed holiday, every sacrifice was for one dream. I wanted my family to have a better life than I ever had. I believed that when I grew old, my children would value honesty more than money. I was wrong. It started with small changes. My son Daniel suddenly insisted on helping me with my paperwork, organizing my financial records and business contracts. At first, I thought he simply wanted to reduce my workload. Instead, he was studying every signature, every account, every legal document I owned. Then, strange things began happening. Letters disappeared before I could read them. My accountant stopped calling me directly. Bank statements arrived already opened. Whenever I asked questions, Daniel smiled and said I was becoming forgetful because of my age. Those words hurt more than I admitted. One afternoon, my lawyer called asking why I'd transferred ownership of several investment properties. I was shocked. I had signed nothing. He emailed me copies. Every signature looked exactly like mine, except they were fake. Someone had carefully copied my handwriting. Instead of confronting my son immediately, I stayed quiet. I wanted proof before making a move. I hired a private forensic document examiner who confirmed my worst fear. Every signature had been professionally forged. That was only the beginning. The investigator uncovered emails between Daniel, his wife, and a financial advisor, discussing how to gain control of my assets before I changed my will. They believed I was mentally declining. Their plan was simple: convince everyone I was no longer capable of making decisions, then quietly move everything into their names. The final step was removing me from my own home. One evening, Daniel arrived with several relatives. He looked calm, almost rehearsed. "Dad, you need professional care. This house is too much for you. We already made arrangements." I laughed, because I finally understood everything. Then he said the words I'll never forget. "You're old, weak, and forgetful. You can't even remember what you sign anymore." Before I could answer, he placed a suitcase beside the door. "You should leave tonight." Every person in the room avoided my eyes. No one defended me. I picked up the suitcase, walked outside, and drove to a small hotel. That night, Daniel celebrated. He believed he owned everything. But he'd forgotten one person, the lawyer who created my family trust 20 years earlier. Years before, I'd established a confidential $90 million trust fund, investments, businesses, and properties completely separate from my personal estate. Only my attorney and I knew every condition. One clause stated that any beneficiary proven to commit fraud, forgery, or financial abuse against another family member would immediately lose every future inheritance. Daniel had never read that document. The following week, I met with my legal team. They already had evidence: handwriting experts, digital records, security footage, bank transactions. We quietly filed lawsuits, reported the forged documents, and notified financial institutions before Daniel could move another dollar. Then came the court hearing. Daniel walked in confidently, believing I was too weak to fight. His lawyer argued that I'd willingly signed every document. Then my attorney presented expert testimony proving every signature had been forged. Security footage showed Daniel removing documents from my office. Email records exposed the entire scheme, planned out in writing. The courtroom went silent. Daniel looked at me for the first time without confidence. The judge ruled every fraudulent transfer canceled. Criminal investigators opened a forgery investigation. Civil damages were awarded against everyone involved. But the biggest surprise came moments later. My attorney revealed the existence of the $90 million trust. Daniel smiled for 1 second, believing he'd still inherit everything. Then my lawyer read the fraud clause aloud. Because Daniel had intentionally forged legal documents and attempted financial abuse, he was permanently removed as a beneficiary. Every dollar disappeared. Every property he'd expected vanished. Every future payment ended immediately. His wife started crying. The advisor quietly left the courtroom. Daniel finally understood what greed had cost him. Months later, I moved into a peaceful home overlooking a quiet lake. I rebuilt relationships with relatives who'd supported me honestly. Most importantly, I discovered something more valuable than money. Respect cannot be demanded. Trust cannot be stolen. Family is proven by actions, not by blood. The fortune remained protected, exactly as I intended. And the people who tried to steal it walked away with nothing but the consequences of their own choices. If someone truly loves you, they'll never measure your worth by your age or your wealth. Greed always promises easy money, but eventually demands a painful price. The greatest victory was never revenge. It was protecting my dignity, my legacy, and the truth.